Welcome to another edition of Head On here on Shaw TV, delving into the issues that really matter around our central Vancouver Island communities. And today, something a little bit different, the plight of amateur and junior sports. We have an unstable economy, increasing costs for sports organizations, and an increasing cost of living for the people here on the island and across the province of BC. And it's leading to a real squeeze for amateur and junior sports that rely on ticket sales and sponsorships to stay afloat. And a couple of guests who know firsthand all about amateur sports and some of the challenges and hopefully some solutions moving forward. We have Dom Abassi here, with the Vice President of the VI Raiders, also play-by-play voice of the Oceanside Generals. Dom, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, a man that needs little introduction, Bill Bestwick. He is a two-term Nanaimo City Councillor, former longtime head coach of the Nanaimo Clippers, and currently now the bench boss of the Oceanside Generals. Bill, thanks for coming on the program to discuss this.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ian.
I'll start with you, Dom. Amateur sports, what really, these junior sports organizations like the Clippers, VI Raiders, what is the value? What do they mean to our communities?
Well, it's a lot of different layers and a lot of different ways that they impact the community. And one of the things that I've seen very big with the VI Raiders is relocating families to the West Coast. You get kids that come from Saskatchewan and Calgary and Winnipeg. They move here and their sons move here to play football. The families come to visit, and the next thing you know, hey, we're moving. We need to move to this beautiful place on Vancouver Island. So the number of families that have relocated here in the 10-year existence of the VI Raiders, can't even count them really. And then there's the impact on the community. And I look back 10 years ago when I was coming out of the community football program, the Nanaimo Redmen here in town, and community football was struggling to get numbers, and high school football was nearly folding. And now the Barsby Bulldogs and the Nanaimo Redmen, both provincial champions at their levels. So I don't think that happens without the impact of the VI Raiders on this community in the last 10 years.
Bill, in all your years coaching the Nanaimo Clippers, I mean, you came across hundreds of young men, 16 to 20-year-olds, many of whom moved on to NCAA college commitments in the States, a handful going to the NHL. So you certainly have a first-hand view on the value of amateur sports to our communities. Just to explain to our viewers, expand a little bit on that.
Well, I think Dom hit a really important topic of the economics of sport, and indeed the civic pride factor of having something that you represent with, that you identify with. I don't think that there's very far that you can go without, when you bring up the Timbermen. Mm-hmm. From way back in the day, lacrosse, when you bring up the Clippers from way back in the day of hockey, when you're bringing up the Raiders now, current, it's that legacy. And the legacy that these organizations and the volunteers and the people that give so much of their resources to these fledgling organizations for the best interest of the community, right, first and foremost. And so I think the legacy that is derived from all of these sports that are created here and have been created here and continue, we hope, to grow. But you know, our community is built on those people that give back, and I think Nanaimo is a very generous community about giving back.
And Nanaimo, unquestionably a sports town, a multi-sports town. As for challenges, Bill, I'll start this with you, and you have first-hand knowledge in terms of just how difficult it is for amateur junior sports to survive. Just go over the challenges that many of these organizations are going through.
Well, it's costly. It's really expensive. And you know, they've survived here in different forms or other, with different ownership groups, with different mechanisms to you know, to make it work. And I see that that's getting away from hockey in particular, a sport that I'm pretty familiar with. And right across this country at all levels, since 2008, there's been a real decline in season ticket holders, in walk-up paid admissions, corporate sponsorships, and it's becoming a much bigger challenge to maintain your head above water at that amateur level. And I don't know where it's going to go. I don't think that any of the 16 teams in the BC Hockey League are making very much money, if any at all. And it's a real concern. I'm sure Dom will speak to the status of football and potentially even lacrosse, but it's not easy out there without government support, without corporate support, without, and huge fan base, and the fan bases are declining.
And I'll ask Dom about that. The challenge that amateur sports teams face here locally and abroad, Dom. And just before we get to that, I was told today, we were told in our newsroom from a source directly involved with the BCHL that not one team in the BCHL made money last year. They all lost money. That is not a recipe for success moving ahead. Dom, from your perspective, being so entrenched with the VI Raiders organization, now with the Oceanside Generals as their play-by-play voice, what are you seeing as the challenges really inflicting on these organizations? Well,
it's not surprising to hear you say what you just said, that no team in the BCHL made money last season. I fully believe that, and I wouldn't argue that for a second. And I know through my involvement with junior football, and specifically with the Raiders, it's a break-even prospect. If you can break even at the end of the season, that's a great success, and it's a very tough task to do. Operating budgets for a junior football team from the low six figures and moving up to the mid six figures, depending on how much and how you want to do your business. And the more money you spend, the more successful you're going to be. But the problem is you're not seeing that return. There's no return for success, it seems, and Bill referenced the declining fans and the bodies in the parks, they're just not there. We're not seeing the same number of fans come in to watch Clipper games, and even in the 10 years the Raiders have been here, we're not seeing the same number of fans come to those games. So from a team aspect, there's no motivation, it seems, to spend more money to be a better team, because the difference between spending $200,000 and being a 500 team, and the difference of spending $500,000 and being a championship team, it might be 50 fans, maybe, on the best of days, and that is not going to help you bolster your operating income at all.
And something that's hurting the Clippers especially, I find, is that you're really up against the battle of technology. It's the era of the HD TV. It's cheaper, and you can get a very good entertainment option just by staying at home, especially when people don't have a lot of expendable income. It just seems that technology is coming to the forefront and putting the squeeze on junior and amateur sports as well.
Well, I know you, Ian, you've got the NHL Center Ice package, right? And you can sit at home any given night and watch any NHL game you want. And this is the best athletes in the world at that level. And when it comes to following a team, I think part of the draw of following a junior or amateur sport team in the past may have been the connection that you felt. Whereas, I could go out and chat with Bill Bestwick after a game, and I can go and meet the players at the pub or whatever the case might be, and feel like I'm connected to that team. Well, now with Twitter and Facebook and the way that websites are run and the video content, you could follow the Carolina Hurricanes almost more intimately than you could follow the Nanaimo Clippers now.
And Bill, you've been coaching for a long time with the Nanaimo Clippers, over a decade. Just talk about the changing landscape that you saw. As Dom alluded to, there is so much more going on now. It was the Clippers could more easily kind of way capture the marketplace with the entertainment dollar, it seemed.
Well, there was a time, of course, when the Clippers were the #1 dog in town, and they still are essentially in the wintertime. And that's key to success. So when you think of the Penticton Vs in the BC Hockey League, they are the #1 team there. The West Kelowna Warriors aren't in Kelowna. The Rockets are the #1 team there. The Kamloops Blazers in Kamloops, they're the #1 team in the Western Hockey League in terms of a draw in Kamloops. They're the dog. And as soon as you start having the other things creep into taking precedent, so Netflix and the NHL package and the NFL package and all of these things that people's discretionary spend becomes easier to do at home, and they're getting full value for their spend. It's hard on local families raising 2 or 3 kids and people working multiple jobs or having 2 jobs to make ends meet. And the recreation entertainment spend since 2008 has diminished a lot. And are we going to get back to that point where we can sort of spend more freely and attend every game that you want to attend? I'm not so sure. Once you get away from it, it's easier to be without it.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about solutions. You alluded to that, Bill. How do we make amateur junior sports more sustainable? Dom, the $1 million question, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I have an answer, to be honest. I mean, I think a huge part of it, the onus is going to fall back on these teams and these organizations, and to provide the fan the value for their money. When I spend my money to go to a Raiders game or a Clippers game, I want to be entertained, I want to get something out of it, and I want to feel good that, hey, I didn't waste my money. And, the onus then falls back on the teams to provide that entertainment value. And that, I'm not talking even about the product on the field or on the ice and the skill of the players. That's secondary. But you got to entertain people with giveaways and promotions and always be talking to them, and with the music and the kids. You have to find a way to hook these people on your event. And the problem there is that, I know for the VI Raiders, there are no paid employees on the staff.
Costs money to do that.
Everybody that works for that team is a volunteer. They all have jobs. They're all trying to keep their head above water as well. So for them to go out and put on a pro-style game atmosphere that has a professional marketing employee and a marketing team putting these things together with a group of volunteers, that's a monumental challenge. But I think that's the key, is finding a way to give people a fan experience that they're excited about and keep them coming back.
At the end of the day, you still have every team in the BCHL that lost money last year, and that can't continue for years moving ahead in the future. Bill, what do you see is something to give a lifeline to amateur sports?
Well, clearly it has to be affordable, and one of the problems with hockey is it's becoming a very affluent sport, and it's not only is it becoming an affluent sport to play it, it's becoming an affluent spectator sport to attend them. And to attend events and games. And I think, until such time, we all talk about deep pockets. You need to have strong ownership, strong ownership. Well, deep pockets only go so far, to Dom's point. You really need to, your presentation has got to be at the highest level. I think that the BC Hockey League has to take a real hard look at what their league demographic is, what their league geographics are as well. Do we have too many teams? Do we play too many games? Are we playing on non-prime nights? Are we bringing enough corporate dollars in as a league entity? When you think about Powell River and Merritt and Trail and Prince George and other cities that don't have the access to the same population, to the same corporate bodies that a Victoria or or Surrey might have because of corporate head offices and things. So it's really challenging. It's an unlevel playing surface for sure. Cyclically, teams, you hope every 3 or 4 years have a real strong team, so that you have something to stand up and cheer loud and proud about. But the football team's been real successful, and on the field and with championships, and it's still a real struggle to attract people.
Let me float this one out here, guys. We've heard rumblings about pay to play next year in the BC Hockey League and Junior A across Canada. That maybe government subsidies to help offset it. Is there any traction to that, do you guys think?
Well, there's player fees right now with the VI Raiders. The kids pay a fee to come out, covers their team gears, a shirt, a hat, and the cost of providing them with equipment and all that. But if you want to recruit the best players in the country and say to a kid, we really need you on our team, and then you're going to ask him to pay $350 to come play, well, he's going to go find a team that's going to pay him to play, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, pay to play, sure, but that's a tough one as well.
Thanks so much. Dom Abassi, Vice President of the VI Raiders, Bill Bestwick of the Oceanside Generals, also former longtime head coach of the Nanaimo Clippers. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
There you have it, the current state and future health of amateur and junior sports locally and abroad in BC. We'll follow this story moving ahead months and years ahead. This is Ian Holmes, another edition of Head On here on Shaw TV. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you next time.